All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome into the LA Sports Brotherhood. It's me, Ryan, here with my brother Matthew, and it feels like Groundhog Day or something of the sort because this is like the fourth time we're talking about JJ Redick being the Laker head coach. But this time it feels more official. There's no actual Laker statement or tweet, but Woj tweeted that the Lakers and JJ Redick have come to an agreement. They gave the terms of the agreement, 4-year contract for just under $9 million a year, so it'll be around 32, 33-ish for the total contract. And I was gonna say our worst fears were confirmed, but I wasn't really scared of this. I think the next part of this process will be my worst fears coming true. But Matt, I know we've talked about general opinions, so you can take this wherever you want. But it seems like Redick will actually officially finally be the Laker coach. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we don't have to, you know, keep talking about who is it going to be. It's nice to have the contract out. I believe Hurley was supposed to get it was an 8-year deal offered, right?
It was 6 for 70 mil or
Six.
7 for
So
80,
six
something like that.
6 to 4 is cleared the difference. One was a two-time champion. One has never coached, not even an assistant,
Yeah.
not even in college. So I mean, we kind of talked about how we feel about him, just lack of experience. Honestly, this feels like a 2020s Lakers move, and what I mean by that is I don't know. It's just there's something to be said about being the biggest, the best franchise in the sport, and in my opinion, we didn't get one of my two favorite options. So the guys have been talked about. I liked Hurley over him, and I liked Adelbin over him. And I don't know. We just gotta trust the front office, trust the owners, trust the Lakers. I mean, just hope that he hits because there is potential. He's a smart guy. It's just zero experience.
Yeah. Like when you're talking, I mean, I share the same feeling. When you're talking about hope it hits, the real actual issue with this hire to me is that we need a like outstanding, experienced, high priced surrounding coaching staff. And the Lakers have not done that for as long as I can remember. Like my entire lifespan as a Laker fan. I've been a Laker fan my whole life, but I've been like a genuine following Laker fan since I, what, 11 or 12, I think. For just from 2011 to now, just for the arbitrary numbers, they have not spent on a coaching staff. And since Rob Pelinka has been in charge and Jeannie Buss has become the sole owner, they have spent, I was going to cuss, they've spent nothing. They've been dirt cheap every single time. It's always like people from the G League team that they're bringing up or guys that are getting promoted 5 times over because they could save money on it. And this is the only time I will listen to and also perpetuate the Genie is cheap narrative. They do not ever have assistant coaches that are worth anything. First year Frank Vogel, they had Jason Kidd, and they lucked into him being good because he was awful with the Bucks. When I remember when Laker fans, including us, found out that Jason Kidd was the sticking point for Ty Lue, it was also years and money, and they were cheap that way. But they were going to force Kidd onto that roster. I mean, onto that coaching staff. And they did, because that's why Frank Vogel ended up being there. Vogel accepted a shorter contract and did relinquished control over his staff. But that year, Kidd technically turned out to be a good hire because he's a good coach now with the Mavericks. I don't think he's that great, but whatever. They had Lionel Hollins there and a couple other guys that were like, you know, just competent, real NBA guys. And with Ham, we got a bunch of assistants that theoretically had a good track record. You know, like they're respected. It wasn't like hiring nobodies, but they got the Hawks shooting coach, Chris Gent, who is a renowned shooting coach, but they made him like the first offensive assistant off the bench. Like that's a 3 times step up higher because they wanted to save money. And even with like some kind of foresight hiring him like, oh, he's a great shooting coach, he has good whatever. That type of stuff cannot happen with JJ Redick. He doesn't know what he's doing. Not saying that we know what he's doing, but he literally knows as much about being a head coach as any other NBA basketball player in the history of basketball, which is more than the normal person, but it's not the same as being a head coach. So when I hear names, I'm starting off upset about this because the names that were leaked by randos, um, for like Sam Cassell and Dudley and stuff, where we're like, oh, we don't know if these names are real because they weren't leaked by anybody reputable. Shams today in his "I beat you Woj" article leak where he was whatever he was like he called the Dan Hurley process like ultimately fake and like a Hail Mary. He thought it was a leverage play, whatever. So he was obviously taking shots at Woj. These are the names for the leading candidates to be on his staff: Sam Cassell, Jared Dudley, Rajon Rondo, Scott Brooks. Who is inspired by that? I know Laker fans are going to see Rajon Rondo and start clapping and jumping for joy. I think he's a genius basketball wise. He has never coached. Why is the most exciting, forward thinking hire you're going to make as the Los Angeles Lakers a former player that has never coached? Scott Brooks is a multiple time flameout as a head coach with a wholly uninspiring offensive scheme, and he's an offensive guy. That's the only actual head coach guy that the type we would need to be with Redick, and it sucks. If they made this move trying to be forward thinking, and I saw Palinka, as we said before, Woj is the team, the front office leak, like the mouthpiece. Woj's leak of the story was that Palinka is planning on building an elite coaching staff around JJ Redick to support him, and then we get these names. Elite coaching staff implies you're going to spend money on the coaching staff, and they're not going to do that. So that's why we have Jared Dudley and Rajon Rondo and Scott Brooks. If that's who is on the bench for this season, we're not going to suck because we have LeBron and AD, but it's going to be like last year again, just with JJ Redick as head coach. So it's going to be even more embarrassing. So I didn't even give a good segue for you, Matthew, but I'm tired of manipulating all of this. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we talked we talked about this in a video. Don't remember what it was, to be honest. We just wanted stability. We wanted the last few years of the LeBron era to end smoothly, like a regular freaking organization. And this might have been like the worst possible hire for that, because I mean, stability. A guy who's never coached before. I mean, that's and it's like it's you could so clearly see him being fired after year one. It may not happen. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. And then the narrative of scapegoat, another scapegoat. It's like if we get that staff you just talked about, and Redick doesn't know what the hell he's doing, the guys are unprepared, and they're just gonna keep calling it a scapegoat. I just wanted a freaking stable head coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe he is that because I mean I don't know who said it. I saw on Twitter. Hopefully, it was a real person saying that the Lakers think that this could be our Spolstra, and it's like I hope that happens, but he has never coached before, so we'll see what happens. And we've touched about this. His inexperience is inexperience. I guess I'll ask you. Let's say and I'm not gonna ask you to give names, but let's say he gets like legit experienced coaches that'll make you feel good, like a great coaching staff around him. Would you feel good about this? Good about him, kind of neutral about him, or would you feel bad about him?
No, I would feel great. I JJ Redick is not my problem. It's just that if you have a head coach, Redick or somebody that's been around for 20 years, if you have a head coach who is not an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, to use like general terms, then you need coaches around him that do that. Like Budenholzer is bad, but he has his offense. So you don't need to worry about hiring this incredible offensive assistant because Budenholzer has this built out scheme which offensively isn't bad. It's just defensively sucks and he's whatever. He's not the Laker coach, I don't care. But that's what I mean. Like Mike Malone isn't the offensive or defensive coordinator for the team, but he commands the locker room and he gives them little Twitter clips that Denver loves. And I'm being facetious, but that's the reality of it. He knows how to control the team. He cuts the rotations when he needs to. Ironically, all the stuff that I get upset about Laker fans or just NBA fans in general complaining about head coach stuff because they don't know what scheme is and stuff like that. Ironically, that is what the head coach does. He calls out the plays, but also he gets the plays fed to him from his staff. Like it's not that head coaches are incompetent figureheads, but they are much more akin to figureheads than they are like the Lincoln Riley type, where he's like, "Oh, I'm control of this offense, mastermind stuff." Like that's not what head coaches are in the NBA. That's just not. Like Spolstra and Popovich are kind of the last ones that have that. And I mentioned Budenholzer, but he's like a Popovich tree guy. Spolstra is a genuine genius and one of the greatest coaches of all time, in my opinion. Popovich is one of the greatest coaches of all time, but he's kind of washed now, and that's kind of it. Everything else is like they have these little Edelmans or Michael Nori, who's a defensive version of that for Timberwolves, who the Lakers are supposed to interview. Like every team has those people. If the Lakers have that person, and that I can't really name them, I'm not going to pretend to know every bench staff. If the Lakers have those people around Redick, I actually think this could be legitimately successful. But if they don't, if it's I was gonna say James Borrego, but no, James Borrego's for sure getting one of the open he's either getting the Pistons or the Cavs jobs, which is kind of crazy to me. But if it's someone like him or Scott Brooks or anything like that, then this is just it's just not going to work. It's going to be after year one. Are the Lakers going to? It's going to be trade deadline. Should the Lakers make a move, or is it going to be a waste of assets? That's going to be the first headline. After they lose in the second round of the playoffs, or they're in the play-in and they lose to the Nuggets again or whatever, it's going to be JJ Redick first year is a failure. Is he going to be brought back? Year two, they're going to make a big trade, big desperate trade, or LeBron's gone, and then it's going to go just crumbling downhill. That's what's going to happen if we don't have a competent actual staff. And you talked about names. I'll say just one really quick. This one hasn't been brought up at all, but Stan Van Gundy, he and JJ are really close. I don't think Stan Van Gundy's an incredible coach, but he is a legitimate defensive like schemer guy. And JJ played for him like twice. They're really close. I would not be surprised if he got brought in, and I would like if he got brought in. He's someone that has legitimate experience, a good relationship with JJ, will be able to help him out, and he has an actual defensive scheme. I know like the build the wall jokes about Giannis was like will be posted, but his teams are defensively sound. So like something like that is what I'm hoping for. I'll toss that back to you. What would you think in your own from your own question?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean that's the main point of all this. We've talked a million times about JJ Redick and the qualities he has. And I think like he really could be that Michael Malone type, say the right things, the fans love him. They're like, "Oh, JJ this, JJ this." Like I think he'd be a fan favorite. The locker room I think can respect him. I think he's such a smart mind and he's played in the NBA for so long. I think he could know how to manage a game. But if we have a guy who was playing in the finals for us 4 years ago, if we have Jared Dudley also on that team
Yeah,
4 years ago, where the hell is the offense going to come from? Where unless JJ and LeBron have been cooking some scheme up in this, which honestly could have happened. I mean, JJ's if he's mentally prepared to be a head coach, maybe he's had the scheme. But I want to think optimistically. He's a very smart guy. He knows he'll be a head coach eventually. I hope that he has been building a staff, like Van Gundy, the guys he's had connections with that know what he's doing. Be real with yourself enough to know that I've never been a head coach. I need experienced guys. I need an offensive system. I need a defensive system. Let's run this like a machine. We have LeBron and AD, and I'm just gonna pray that JJ's been doing that, been preparing, been real enough with himself to realize he's getting a couple young guys with him is not gonna do the job. So I would feel good if we had like a staff like that with experienced guys, offense, defense, because that's an upgrade from last year's staff if that happens.
yeah, yeah. So the NBA offseason has officially kicked off. An unnamed team from the East won the finals. We got our first trade of the offseason with Alex Caruso going to the Thunder, which is insane, and we might talk about that just different at another time. But yeah, that is to say, I'm expecting an officialized tweet from the Lakers about this soon, and the staff is going to be filled out. They're going to, if they are at in any way smart or moving in a way that they need to after making this decision, the staff decision will be made quickly, and this should be positive. And obviously, we'll be here for all of that. But yeah, JJ Redick He's the Laker coach. There's no more waffling. There's no more Dan Hurley, whatever Hail Marys as Shams called it. This is the team. This is the coach. Time to build the staff, and I pray to God it doesn't suck. So yeah, go Lakers. We'll be back very soon. Peace.